بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. یا رب دعا قبول ہو عابد کا واسطہ، یا رب دعا قبول ہو عابد کا واسطہ، ابن حسین سید سجاد کا واسطہ، تو نے جسے خطاب دیا زین العابدین، سجاد نام ان کا ہے عابد کا واسطہ، یا رب دعا قبول ہو عابد کا واسطہ، تعریف تیری کرتا رہا زندگی تمام، میں کردگار بس اسی حامد کا واسطہ، یا رب دعا قبول ہو عابد کا واسطہ، بیمار کربلا ہے لقب اس کا اے خدا، ہو دور یہ مرض تجھے عابد کا واسطہ، یا رب دعا قبول ہو عابد کا واسطہ، ناچار مؤمنین ہے زمانے کے رنگ سے، فریاد ہماری سن لے محمد کا واسطہ، یا رب دعا قبول ہو عابد کا واسطہ، رحم اللہ من قرأ الفاتحہ. اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم، بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم، بسم اللہ وباللہ وصلی اللہ علی رسول اللہ، الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله، لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أبي القاسم محمد، روحي وجسمي وارواح العالمين لك الفداء يا ابن رسول الله، ثم السلام عليكم يا أهل العزاء الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين صلوات. We are tonight observing the Shahadat of our fourth Imam, Imam Zainul Aabideen alayhi salam. This is also the Wafat night of Janab Fizza as well. And we need to remember her a little bit because of her highest moral values and ethical values that she showed in the household of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. She was from Sudan and she lived through, when you think of it, she had lived through the time of the Holy Prophet all the way until after the event of Karbala. And she died exactly a year after returning back to Medina, and then she comes back to Sham, which is where she is buried today. In Karbala, there were two beauties. They were known as the ornaments. These were the ornaments that took the message of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein beyond Karbala. Had it not been that the family would have not joined at all, and what happened in Karbala happened, then the entire event of Karbala would have just finished after the martyrdom of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. But it was very, very important for Imam to go beyond that, to be able to have the two beauties. One was Janab Zainab, who was the ornament of her father. And the other one was the ornament of the worshippers, Imam Ali Zainul Aabideen alayhi salam. It is important for us to know who Imam was, because the only thing we know really, because every time we hear the name of Imam Ali Zainul Aabideen, it is directly connected to Karbala. We don't really know what role did this Imam play in the event of Karbala and after Karbala. In the 250 years of Imamat, starting from Mawla Kainat Hazrat Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam until the time our 12th Imam went into Ghaiba, no Imam has seen and suffered the way this Imam did. There is just absolutely no doubt about that. Why? Because you can imagine, he was only 2 years of age when Mawla Kainat passed away. And when he was in Karbala, he was 22 years of age. He was the youngest in between Janab Ali Asghar and Janab Ali Akbar. He was 22 years of age when he saw the entire event of Karbala. His mother whose name was known as Shahzanan. Shahzanan was a daughter of the king, the last king of Persia. And Shahzanan meant Sayyidatun Nisa. She was a convert. And her name was Sayyidatun Nisa, but when she came upon the recommendation of Mawlai Kainat that Imam Hussein alayhi salam should marry her, is when Imam Ali alayhi salam told her that she needs to change her name to Shaharbanu, because that title of Sayyidatun Nisa belonged only and only to Janabe Fatimatu Zahra salamullah alayh. So imagine his mother dies within a few days. She did not live for too long. And he was under the direct supervision of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam from the very beginning of his life. The thing that we must remember is that he was not sick the entire time of his life. He was only sick when they were on their way to Karbala. And it was by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the kind of sickness that he got made him totally unconscious of what was transpiring at that moment. And that is why when Imam Hussein alayhi salam comes to him to seek permission and to go to the battlefield of Karbala, that was the first time when he became conscious. So if I read a Marsiya that indicates that he was a Bimar Karbala even when they were back in Medina, is wrong. Because his time of Bimar was strictly during that time. On the 11th of Muharram, when they chained him and put him on the camel, is the time when he actually was not as sick as he was on the day of Ashura. After that, he was not known as a sick Imam. Now, he used to cry quite a bit. And he used to cry to keep this institution that we are in alive. You see, the very first person to introduce majalis was Imam Ali Zainul Aabideen. The way we do. This is the sunnah of his. That whenever he used to recite majalis, the first thing he did was he would recite a khutbah. Then he would talk about what Quran has said. And after that, he would then do the Masayib of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. So this institution that we have is the sunnah of Imam Ali Zainul Aabideen that has continued till today, and it will continue until the day of judgment. It is one of the best universities we have, my brothers and sisters in Islam. It is a university that changes the lives of many, many people. If there is one time you see the most people in a mosque, is during the time of Ashura. You see that at the time of Sham-e Ghariba. Prior to that, yes, you see people, but the most people seen in any community is during this time. And it is because when these people leave, and when we leave the majalises of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, we leave with a soft heart, not a hard heart. And that is why this institution is so important for us to maintain. And I commend the people that even take the time to do these majalises at home. Because there is no better way to call Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam to your home other than first reciting a majalis. Because this is what Imam Ali Zainul Aabideen alayhi salam used to say, that even if somebody is getting married, then have the majalis of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And if you have a marriage and you have the majalis of Imam, I will be coming there. And therefore, it is a very, very important institution. Now, what is important is what transpired after Karbala. What really happened? What was the history? And why, when we look at the life of this Imam, it is an absolutely brilliant life, the way he changed the way people were believing in at that time. When he returned back to Medina after Karbala, do you know how many followers they had in Medina of Ahlul Bayt? It is said hardly 20. Imagine. In the whole city of Medina, they could not find more than 20 people. Only 4 to 5 people would go to Masjid al-Nabawi to perform the salat. That was the condition of Medina. Medina was a city, as we know, that the Holy Prophet had transformed this city into one of the most spiritual cities of Islam, along with the city of Mecca. But when it came to Medina, and after the event of Karbala, the entire situation in Medina had changed forever. It was the biggest musical center in the world, Medina was. Imagine that when Imam comes back in Medina, and you can imagine what Janab Zainab Salamullah alayh, what Janab Layla, what Janab Rabab must have seen, how that city had transformed completely in the opposite direction. Because people were totally scared, and those who were rich were now becoming richer and richer. And what happened was that Medina was a center of musicians. Not only musicians, the most famous lady dancers in the world used to come from Medina. Today there is a book written by someone who writes about every musical person that was in Medina at the time when Imam came back to Medina. The names of all these musicians. And to the extent that people used to compete with each other. You know, in the West, one of the things we have seen is when somebody calls a musical group, they always put the name of the sponsor on top. Because they want to know who is the one who called this musical person from Bollywood or Hollywood or wherever. But they wanted to put their name on it. This was the situation in Medina at that time. That people wanted their names to be given to be the sponsor of musics and musicians and dancers coming from other parts of the world to dance in that city. So today when we see how Saudi Arabia is transforming again, once again, and what is happening in some parts of Arabia, it is a sad moment, but it is not that they didn't inherit anything. They have inherited many things, my brothers and sisters in Islam. And if this was the condition, to the extent that one of the dancer who was called along with a musician to Medina, this man started to sing to the group. And when he was singing, simultaneously the adhan came. And he tells his people to make sure that they go and stop that adhan because it is disturbing him in his presentation of the music. Now just think of this city. If music was there and dancing was there, then what was not there that was haram? Every aspect of that which was haram was present. I cannot even talk from the mimbar, the type of things that were happening in Medina. To the extent that when Yazid, after the event of Karbala, he sends his people into Mecca, and they tried to demolish the walls of Mecca. But as they were getting ready to do it, in the 3rd year, Yazid dies. And the Syrian army that he had prepared to demolish Kaaba completely decided to return back. But in Medina, the situation was that he had asked the horses to be tied and made Masjid al-Nabawi as a stable for the horses. This was the condition. Hajjaj bin Yusuf and Marwan ibn Malik and all these people were among the most ruthless people that were ever found in Medina, to the extent that Hajjaj bin Yusuf and his people killed more than 15 to 20,000 children and adults and women of Medina. So when you look at the life of Imam Ali Zainul Aabideen, it was not an easy life. It was very, very difficult for him to transform this community back to the way it was when the Holy Prophet was there. And how did he do it is an interesting part of the life of our Imam alayhi salam. When he returns back and when he sees the situation changing dramatically, what happens at that time is that he was restricted. He could not lead the prayers, nor could he have any moment of tabligh with people. He was restricted completely. So what Imam alayhi salam did was he goes into Masjid al-Nabawi and he starts to do dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now nobody was going to stop him from doing du'as. Those du'as that he did became Sahifa-e Sajjadiyah. This is how he wrote when the situation was bad. The other thing he did was he wrote a book called Risalat al-Hukuk, which is called the Treatise of the Rights. This particular book is in United Nations today, and it is even found in the library in Rome, the library of the Pope. And it is an absolutely beautiful book. It talks about, but the thing that we have to understand is, why did Imam write Risalat al-Hukuk in these times, when the times were so tough? The rights of parents, the rights of children, the rights of animals, the rights of every part of a human body, the rights of a man or a woman working for you. In every aspect, he is talking about what were the rights and why did he have to write such a book in such a most difficult time. The reason was very simple. He had seen what was happening to the society. He had seen what was happening to the community. He had seen how people had moved away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To connect these people or to reconnect them back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he started the du'as, the Sahifa-e Sajjadiyah. And when he saw that Bani Umayyah had violated the rights of everyone. Today, there is a discussion, right, on internet about some preachers who, God help us as to what has happened to them. Because these preachers are not just ordinary preachers, my brothers and sisters in Islam. These preachers have a backing of so many people. And they are transforming the change in the minds of our younger generation. And therefore it is so important for us to make sure that we teach the children the right history of Islam. This Bani Umayyah, you know, if somebody just comes out of Bani Umayyah and says, I've discovered this which is of no value to me, why should I have to remember anybody from Bani Umayyah? We can count from Bani Umayyah and Banu Abbas all the atrocities they have done from the time they started until they ended. And to say that we should also look at the good contributions of Bani Umayyah is absolutely ridiculous. But we must make sure that our children are taught the history the way it should be, because it is important for them to know what type of people were these Banu Umayyah. These people, when you look at Hisham bin Ismail, who was the governor of Medina at that time, do you know what he did? He used to gather the children. He used to gather his family members. He used to tell them, take stones, pellets of stones, and hit Imam Ali Zainul Aabideen every time he would go in and out of the house. They would pellet him with stones. But look at the Imam. This is our Imam. When this Hisham bin Ismail was arrested, and when he was chained on the wall in Medina, people came over to Imam Ali Zainul Aabideen alayhi salam and said, Mawla, why don't you punish him for what he had said to you or what his children had done to you? Do you know what Imam said? He said, when you go to him, ask him, is he thirsty? If he is, then give him water. He said, ask him, did he have any food? If not, then provide him any food. And if he needs guidance, then provide guidance to him. This was the character of Imam. This is how he was changing. And the way he changed, and history says, and I'm giving you a minimum number, that he had transformed 50,000 people in his lifetime. In his 35 years that he spent in Medina after Karbala. What was he doing? He didn't go to the rich people. He went to the poorest of the poor people. There were many orphans. There were many people who were very, very poor. And many of them were slaves. And many of them had come from Africa. Today, there is a Bilal mission in Africa. But if you really look at the history of the Africans, it will tell you when it actually started. And if there is anyone who needs credit more than anybody, is Imam Ali Zainul Aabideen alayhi salam. Because what did he do? He used to buy these young children and slaves. He used to bring them home and he used to treat them the best. He used to give them food. He used to give them education. He used to make sure that they have the best of clothes. He made sure that they understood the religion of Islam, because one thing Bani Umayyah forgot is what will the poor people end up doing? Or what will the slaves ever do? Thinking that they are there for nothing, because there was no value of these people. So Imam started to train. And out of that, he came up with 4,000 teachers. Abu Hamza Thumali was among one of them. Okay. Musayyab was another one of them. And like that, he gathered. And it is through these people that Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam, they helped him to transform this religion of Islam beyond Medina. And today we see how Islam has spread all over the globe. And it is a lot of efforts were put in by Imam Ali Zainul Aabideen alayhi salam. How beautifully he transforms this. One of the problems he ran into is that when he came back from Medina, he had an uncle called Muhammad Hanafiya. Muhammad Hanafiya is the son of Imam Ali alayhi salam. So therefore, he was his uncle. And Muhammad Hanafiya, when Imam returns back and when he comes to know of what happened in Karbala, he sits with Imam Ali Zainul Aabideen and he says that I should be the Imam now, because I am the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib. So Imam Ali Zainul Abidin, you can imagine, I mean, I can go on and on with his challenges that he had. You know, both of these clocks are different. This is 9:21, that is 9:30. I don't know which one to follow, but I always follow the one that is slower. But anyways, and then that one is already at, I don't know, 9:35, so God help me. But anyways, so when it came to Imam Ali Zainul Abidin, these people were so cruel that at one point what happens in transforming this community is that they saw Imam Ali Zainul Abidin and his efforts that were going on. So when Janabi Hanafiya came and argued with Imam alayhi salam, Imam said to Muhammad Hanafiya, why don't we go to the Khana Kaaba? We'll stand in front of Hajr Aswad and we will ask the stone of Aswad, who is the Hujjah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We will ask them. So Muhammad Hanafiya goes along with Imam alayhi salam, they stand in front of the stone, and Muhammad Hanafiya is the first one to ask the stone, so who is the Hujjah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Nothing happened. Then he asked Imam Ali Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, why don't you say? Why don't you ask the stone? And at that moment the stone started to shake. And the moment he saw that, he turned over to Imam Ali Zainul Abidin alayhi salam and he says, I take allegiance to you that you are the Imam of our time. So these were some of the difficulties that Imam was going through. And as you know, and as we have heard, how he moved from Karbala. And when they were moving from Karbala, they come to Sham. And just think, Imam is in chains. There are thick chains on his neck. It was hot during that time. And so at one point, when they were on their way to Sham, they were given some water. And when Janabi Sakina received that water, she ran towards Imam Ali Zainul Abidin. And Imam says, Sakina, why are you running over towards me? And she said, oh my brother, I've heard you say that the chains that you have, these locks that you have on your neck, has penetrated through your skin into your bones. She would pour water on Imam Ali Zainul Abidin's neck. But Imam used to say that, oh Sakina, you know my difficulty, but Sakina, what will happen to you, my sister Sakina? It was at the time when Imam Ali Zainul Abidin, when Janabi Sakina leaves this world, how did Imam Zainul Abidin dig the grave of Janabi Sakina? Historians say that his hands were tied and there were chains around him. But in spite of that, Imam digs the grave of Janabi Sakina, and when he was done, the people could see the bones of his fingers, because it was very difficult for Imam to bury Janabi Sakina. Allahu Akbar, when the time came in Imam Imam Ali Zainul Aabideen was in his last moments. Imam Muhammad Baqir came and hugged his father, and his father started to cry. He said, Baba, did I hurt you? And Imam said, no, Muhammad. I am remembering my father on the day of Ashura. Even I had the desire to hug my father and kiss him on the forehead. When Janab Imam Ali Zainul Aabideen left this world, it is said there were 2 janazas that were given ghusl by Imams that were very difficult for the Imams. One was the janaza of Janab Fatimatu Zahra Salamullah alayhi. That when Imam Ali alayhi salam was providing the ghusl, at one point he came near the ribs of Janab Fatima and he screamed and cried about it. Then comes the time when Janab Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam was preparing the janazah of Imam Ali Zainul Aabideen, when he started to give ghusl to Imam. Imam at one time, when he came near the neck of Imam alayhi salam, he remembered Karbala and he knew the way his father was chained. Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam started to cry loudly and said, Baba, what did they do to you? ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم بحق محمد وأنت المحمود بحق علي وأنت الأعلى بحق فاطمة وأنت فاطر السماوات والأرض بحق الحسن وأنت المحسين بحق الحسين وأنت قديم الإحسان إلهي توبة قبل الموت وراحة عند الموت ومغفرة بعد الموت والنجاة من النار ودخولا في الجنة وعافية من كل بلاء الدنيا وعذاب الآخرة. ماتم حسين.